Hi, my name is Minna Torppa, and I work as a program director in the Six City Strategy Office that is in charge of the coordination of the Six Icon strategy. We support the cities in the implementation of the strategy, facilitate cooperation between the projects, take care of the communications on strategy level, keeping in our networks informed, basically.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. To start with the description of this project, could you tell us a bit of how it started? What was the motivation for Six ICA?
Yeah. To start with, the Six ICA is a joint strategy for sustainable urban development of the six biggest in Finland. So we have Helsinki, Espoo, Vantaa, the metropolitan, and then Tampere, Turku, and Oulu. It is carried out as part of Finland's Structural Fund program for sustainable growth and jobs from 2014 until 2022. The budget is 95 million euros, of which 50% is EU funding, 17% comes from the state of Finland, and cities cover for the remaining 33%. And it all started as early as 2013, when there was a new EU funding instrument, ITI, which means Integrated Territorial Investment. And in Finland, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment decided to allocate this EU funding for sustainable urban development to a group of cities instead of individual cities. So this way, the funding could be used more effectively as a joint resource, and it wouldn't be fragmented to two small shares. Because as you might know, even the biggest cities in Finland are quite small in global scale. So often it makes no sense to compete over the same resources, when instead sharing capacities and knowledge, it benefits all. So they opened a tender for groups of cities, and the six biggest cities started devising Six ICA strategy together, and they won with their suggestion. And they started the implementation 2014 with 3 spearhead projects involving all the cities, because the idea was to build kind of capacities, knowledge base in open data and interfaces, open innovation platforms, and open participation and services. And since then, we've had 56 projects starting in the themes of circular economy, energy efficiency, learning, mobility, healthcare, and well-being, to name a few. And at the moment, we still have 17 projects running and 5 more starting in becoming months. We still have 1 year ahead of implementation. And so far, about 1,000 people have been participating in this project. So there will be a couple of more people still coming to work with us.
Okay, interesting. 1,000 people. That's quite many of them, which probably leads me to the next question, and is on how this everyday collaboration looks like. How is it easy or difficult, and sort of what are the nuances of this collaboration?
Well, these cities, they have a history of working together for a longer time, but I think with Six City Strategy, we've been able to kind of strengthen it and take it to the specialist level as well. So we have a lot of thematic projects, and they have lots of people working who are now working closely to colleagues from other cities. So the cooperation is actually in many levels. We have this managing group consisting of the directors of the economic development, and then we have coordinators. We have a city coordinator from each of the cities, and then we have all the projects and all these 1,000 people. They have not been working together, but in smaller groups, certainly. And in every single project, there has to be partners from at least 2 of the cities, so nobody can work alone. I think that's one of the strengths that has been building this cooperation strongly.
What about the challenges, though?
Well, there has been this kind of pandemic. I don't know if you've heard, but it's certainly brings some challenges, because people are not able to meet. So lots of Zoom meetings, lots of Teams meetings. But I think we've learned a lot from these as well.
Something that is probably interesting to you, Lil, about Six ICA is this political environment around the collaboration and how it sort of influences how Six ICA has happened?
This actually, I would say that we have not had a political steering group. Instead, it's been very practical level cooperation with more like agile piloting, peer learning, and we haven't maybe touched upon big politically interesting issues such as use investments or structural changes. So I think we've been working with civil servants mainly and with like practitioners, practical people kind of hands-on solving these challenges and solving them by doing, by testing in real life environments.
So I actually was thinking that probably the one of the reasons why it's been possible to do things with also like the positive attitude from the political parties, probably because you come in with your own funding. So you are not actually competing for like the funding which is already like needed for some other things. So it's kind of like you are adding value to the existing system. So this is probably the reason why political support is quite easy to get. But even though I heard like in the beginning you said that the cities do have to invest something into the Six ICA project as well.
Basically 1/3 comes from the project partners. They might be cities, they could be universities, they could be universities of applied science. So they are not all just city organizations, but other public sector organizations as well in research and development.
So like in the initial project proposal, did you have to like guarantee that all the partners have agreed to invest into this if they get funding from the state?
Yeah, actually we do. In the beginning, the cities had to make a commitment. They signed a contract that they will be committed. But every time we open a call for project proposals, each of the project partner, of course, they have to show that, hey, we will be able to pay for our share as well.
So you have managed to get quite a lot of trust from your partners that they believe in what you are doing, and this is also the reason why they are agreed to invest 1/3. So how did you get this trust?
So
how did you manage?
That's a very good question. I think that also builds by working together. When you start with something that everybody believes in, and you start kind of, because the cities, when they were making this application of the Six City strategy, they were of course leaning on their common challenges, their common ambitions that they were committed to. And then when every time we're opening a call, the cities need to decide together in consensus that what kind of projects do we need to now, what do we want? And they evaluate each project proposal, and then they choose which project will get funding. So it's ongoing discussion also that what do we need together, and because of course the cities, they share the same ambitions, but there might be different emphasis at a certain time or point, or someone might be a bit longer already, they've been working on something and they are ahead, so others can learn from them. But building trust, I think that's a very long-term initiative, and they have history, so they've been working together before, so they know each other and they have like good experiences together.
It brings me to reflect a little on the possible power structure between cities. Like bigger cities, do they have more influence in what happens than smaller ones?
Actually not. They all have equal power, and we even share the leadership. So we have like in both management group and steering group, they change the chair every year. So everybody gets to lead on their term. So,
okay.
And they are equal. So it's not that bigger cities would have more power.
Yeah. Hey, linking to the next question, you mentioned research institutions as part of the city. How do you collaborate with research institutions?
I think most of them are probably very often in a natural role in project partners. They might be applicants, they are writing proposals and they are implementing projects because they have a lot of information that is very, very important when you're struggling with city challenges. You need new information, new knowledge, research that you can then apply in real life solutions.
And are these mainly universities, I understand?
Yes, or city-owned development companies, such as Porovirim Helsinki, for example. In every city, they have their own similar structures.
Okay. One of the last points is about evaluation. How do you measure or know about the impact of 6ICA in the cities?
This is such a good and yet very hard question. We've had, during the years of implementation, we had one internal evaluation facilitated by external actor and do external evaluations. And I think they brought good insight to what functions and what kind of results we've got, but I don't see that as an impact, because impact usually when you're working on, like we do in the very beginning of the innovation process, it takes a couple of years before you can actually see what the real impact is. So we also have result indicators within the structural fund program framework, and they show how many companies have been involved, what's the amount of products or services that have been developed. But now we're planning that during the last year of implementation, we'd be contacting companies, other actors from the very first years or years back from the implementation, and just to get to see where did they end up, what did they get, are there any changes that would last, what's the impact now? Because if something has been developed or tested during an agile pilot, for example, we don't see what happens after that. After the project ends, we don't know what happens. They are not coming back to us to tell that, hey, we have a great business. So we are just calling all these people and asking that, hey, where did this take you to? And I think that will be interesting. I would love to get some figures or just like numbers telling what the impact is, but we haven't been able to figure what those would be.
Also, probably a very labor-intensive thing, right? But
yes.
You wanted to ask something.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there has been, like, as you said, that actually the work started already in 2013, and do you have, like, has any kind of like a service for the end user or for the inhabitants grown out from the 6ICA 6 city strategy that you are actually using yourself as a citizen of one of these cities? Has like something changed for you as a citizen?
Oh, that would be great. But I think that was in the beginning, we should have been emphasized that more, because the main target group has been the companies. So the companies are really the ones that we want to see the effect, that they would have the opportunities to test their new products and services in real life environment and kind of get feedback from the users. So the citizens are involved testing these solutions in different city areas, like in Kalasatama. But we haven't been collecting systematically their feedback. And that's something definitely that I would do differently if I was to start again to build this kind of window for the citizens, that here you can see what has been happening, or you can share your input, that have you been able to benefit something from this all.
Now that the name in Finnish properly pronounced has been brought up, for whoever doesn't know about the 6 city strategy, in English it's 6 city strategy, and in Finnish is 6ICA, right? But it's the same project. It's the
same project, and we've been all used to English speaking or other people talking about 6ICA.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
And so finally, about the project, this is about Finnish Twins, which is about making this center of excellence for research and collaboration between cities and even cross-border. do you have any ideas or recommendations for beginners on making this kind of collaboration, on how to start, what things to do?
Maybe some maybe more general level tips. I would say that to start with, you need common goals, but you need also flexibility, because in Six Cities strategy, it's been vital that the strategy has been flexible enough to allow the cities to address ever emerging challenges during the implementation, because we have been constantly revising the course of action when needed, and that has helped us to keep the strategy updated and alive in a way. So if you think about 2013 and now, it's there are different challenges, there are different things emerging in the these years. And then I would say that especially if you're working on something completely new, it's very useful to proceed with agile pilots step by step, because when you use new emerging technologies, they have to be tested small scale at first, and usually they require more than one test round. So you need to be tuned for constant learning. And what we've been trying to do with our project is to get them to work together, also sharing their learnings during the implementation. And that brings the next point, which is networking and emphasis on working. It doesn't happen by itself, because recognizing and matching objectives is really important part of building stakeholder commitment, and maybe building that trust as well. Because when you understand what are the targets, motivation factors, strengths of different actors, you'll be able to put them all together and people will be working towards same goals. And learning from each other helps to then move much faster when everybody doesn't have to discover everything by themselves. You can learn from each other and then you can take maybe bigger steps ahead.
I would like to ask another thing. In Estonia, we have like basically only city and surrounding county that is growing is the capital city Tallinn and the surrounding county Harjumaa, but most of the other cities are either like facing challenges with the shrinkage or like just trying to resolve, like just to keep the inhabitants that they have. I saw that for Six Cities strategy, you have like the cities around Helsinki, and then you have Tampere and Oulu, which is really far north. So how do you kind of like, if they have like different kind of problems and like even the essential problems are kind of different, how do you manage to kind of put it into the same project, or like how does like how can you put one solution to work for all of them?
That's a very good question. Of course, there are differences, but I think we've been very much looking for the common problems, or we've been looking for common themes like mobility, or if you're looking at building and energy efficiency or learning, because they are pretty much same in each of the cities. And I think because these are the 6 biggest cities, they are not that much that different. They are, I think most of them are growing rather than diminishing, but they are also competing because they are wanting to get the best companies and get the best employers and employees to move within them. But I think we've been trying to find all the time, trying to find the topics that are better to be solved together than alone.
So the cities can be complementary. So kind of finding the ways how like different angles of one problem can be tested out in different cities.
Indeed, in ideal case, that's exactly how it should work.
Yes, well, it sounds like a great way to conclude the interview is by saying how it should work in the future. So thank you very much for this. We will share this with everyone from Finnish Twins. it's very useful, and I hope that we can have some conversation in the future about